Welcome back to the Collegiate Live, the official podcast of GRCC student publication, The Collegiate. In today's episode, updates on the closure of GRCC's Success Center and the tragic death of Ozzy Osbourne. Plus, a conversation about the cancellation of CBS's The Late Show and what it might mean for the state of news. And a conversation with guest Freddie Sharp on international travel and how the rest of the world sees current American politics. If you have a topic you want covered on the show or a question you want answered by one of our hosts on air, send it our way by going to thecollegiatelive.com/podcast. On July 18th, Interim President Stephen Triesenberg announced that GRCC would be closing its Success Center, causing many to wonder what that could mean for the students that use it and the faculty that work there.
Basically, last week, we got, I think one of our reporters came in and told us that the Success Center was closing.
Yeah.
I think all of the workers there were notified the day before we found out through an email or other means. I actually don't know how they found out. But I haven't been able to contact anyone for comments. But basically, the president, interim president Triesenberg, sent out a message to students and staff, basically alerting everyone of their decision to close the Success Center. And this is just a pretty big decision just in general because the Success Center is there to help students, keep them on track with grades and assignments. And so this is pretty major. So I feel like a lot of students are going to be impacted by this decision, especially the employees who are being moved to different areas. Sure. The coaches of the Success Center will be employed in different departments for a year. And then after that, I think they're going to be in the academic advising area. And then they have a year before they have to actually apply for the job for a full-time position.
Okay.
The department director will be transitioning to Interim Associate Dean of Strategic Outreach, and Sandra Davis, a support professional, will be working in retention services as a support professional. A quote from his letter to staff was, "Over the past few months, college leadership has participated in conversations with key stakeholders, including the Faculty Association, regarding how to implement necessary changes to best support students in the academic advising work at the college. As part of this transition, we've made the difficult decision to close the College Success Center." I got an email from a student probably like 4 days later after this decision, and she said it was okay that we could use her quote in the article that should be coming out soon. But basically, she said to me in an email, "I'm reaching out because I found out about the student services that were so important in my life during the years that I attended GRCC. James was my academic advisor, and Sandra was his assistant, and they were a vital resource as I attended school at GRCC. It was very difficult to find out that they were ending the program because as a student, that was non-traditional. I needed more than just teachers and tutors. If they would have asked students' opinion, I'm certain the program would not end. It's very hard hearing the future of GRCC has taken a turn for the worst." So obviously this is really impacting at least this student, Tanisha, who actually graduated this year.
Okay.
So we don't even know the impact that'll have on upcoming students who might need help and don't have that support.
And I know that when I interviewed Triesenberg a couple months ago, he mentioned that there were a lot of what he called changing winds in the federal level and on the state level with regards to how colleges were going to have to adjust to a lot of what the Trump administration has been setting out in policies. And he mentioned that they were going to be monitoring how to change these. They haven't said specifically that this is as a result of those, but it does feel like that is, he mentioned changing some things, and this feels like that kind of change that I imagine after consulting with Faculty Association, that is the...
Which is really strange to me because I feel like a lot of those attacks from the federal government were on TRIO programs.
Right.
And like DEI stuff. And so the Success Center has nothing to do with that. That is like more of overall like outreach for students.
Right.
So it's very strange that they would use that as an excuse to cut the program.
And it didn't seem like that GRCC had a reason to close the Success Center, and so I don't know if that is, there's a decision that we didn't hear about, if this was always coming and it's unrelated. It's unsure exactly why this happened, but either way, it's going to have a significant impact on students, and we'll have to see what that looks like.
For more information, you guys can also go to thecollegiatelive.com and read the article on the Success Center closing as well.
And Jamie Miller, one of our reporters here, asked to know that you have some news about legendary Ozzy Osbourne and his death last night.
Yep. Yes, so as many have probably heard, Ozzy Osbourne, legendary frontman of Black Sabbath, as well as being known for his own music, died last night. Yeah, he was well known for being like a legend of the rock industry.
Sure.
Yeah, no one knows how he died yet. We know he had like Parkinson's and a spinal injury. So
How old was he?
Ozzy, he was like 76.
Okay. So it's not some like crazy.
No, he was. Yeah. No, he was. We know he was surrounded by family. He had like 6 children, including Amy and Kelly were 2 of his daughters. He had a son, Jack, and he had like a lot of grandchildren. Mm-hmm. I couldn't even find a number when I was researching. So, a lot. Yeah, I know Ozzy's like, you look up his life story, it was actually really inspirational, kind of, because he used to be like really addicted to drugs and he actually got clean. Mm. You know, like you look up his life story and it's just the stuff documentaries are made of, you know.
Shoot. That's very cool.
Yeah, it's a tragic loss that I'm sure we're going to be feeling the effects of. And
oh yeah, he was a legend, you know. He inspired so many, you know. I still remember as a little kid, you know, speaking into the box fan to try to imitate, you know, the Iron Man, because I loved that song as a little kid.
Sure.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Rest in peace.
Rest in peace. Yeah.
On July 18th, CBS announced that their Late Show, starring Stephen Colbert, would be ending in May, despite the fact that the show is currently ranked number 1 among all network late-night talk shows. The show would not just be losing its host, it would be ending entirely, bringing an end to a franchise that's lasted over 30 years. This has led many to wonder why. In their official announcement, CBS said the decision was purely financial and had nothing to do with the show's performance, content, or other matters happening at Paramount. This comes only a few days after Paramount, the parent company of CBS, paid a $16 million lawsuit that Trump sent against them in response to their interview with Kamala Harris in the lead-up to the 2024 election. Stephen Colbert made fun of that decision on his show, and about 2 days later, the show was canceled. They claim that has nothing to do with it. Others are not so convinced.
Can you spell censorship?
And that's the big question, is CBS holds that it was a financial decision. And to be fair, when James Corden hosted The Late Late Show, which premieres after The Late Show, Corden ended his tenure with that show a couple years ago, and when he did that, they made the decision to end the franchise entirely. Now, The Late Late Show was not nearly as long and storied a franchise as The Late Show, and that came with Corden's leaving the show, and they just decided not to find a new host, instead they replaced it with a wonderful game show called After Midnight with Taylor Tomlinson. This is a different situation, though, because The Late Show is a longer franchise. It is the current number 1 performing show in the ratings in terms of network late-night shows. And Stephen Colbert is not leaving the show. He was fired.
Yes.
So it could potentially be a financial decision to move away from late-night talk shows. NBC has a show. ABC has Jimmy Kimmel Live. Other networks and streaming are introducing... even Netflix introduced Everybody's Life with John Mulaney. So there is an argument to be made that CBS is moving away from late night. But it does seem suspect that this is how they chose to do it, which is why some people are saying that it was in response to his comments or the merger or something politically motivated.
Yeah, and the Late Show has been running for 33 years.
Yes.
And there doesn't seem to be any statistics about it doing like exceptionally worse this year or viewership going down at all.
CBS claims that the show is losing about, I think it's $40 million a year, which is, not insignificant, but they're also performing number 1 in the ratings, so that is an interesting dichotomy. I don't understand how they could be losing that much money. Interestingly, when NBC fired Conan O'Brien from The Tonight Show back in the early 2000s, they claimed a similar thing, that the show was losing money, and at the time, Conan said that just wasn't possible, and that was their excuse to fire him to rehire Jay Leno. That's a whole different situation, but shows losing money has been a frequent excuse, whether it's justified or not, for a show being canceled. The question is that really the reason?
I think Jon Stewart, I'm not going to quote him for obvious reasons, but I think...
There was a lot of profanity involved.
Yes, but I think he more or less hit the nail on the head as for his reasoning that they were afraid of another lawsuit.
Right. It has been kind of remarkable to see the response that people in the industry have had.
Yeah.
Colbert had a segment on his show, the first show he had back after the cancellation was announced, where he had Lin-Manuel Miranda and Weird Al Yankovic. It was a parody of the Coldplay situation, but had a lot of, I think you have the list up there,
Yes,
all the people that appeared in support of Colbert on the show.
Yes, yeah. 3 days after it was announced that the show would be canceled on July 21st. Jimmy Fallon, Seth Meyers, Jon Stewart, John Oliver, Adam Sandler, Anderson Cooper, and Andy Cohen.
Which is a lot. And Kimmel, for his part, films in LA, so he wasn't able to make it, but he has shared his support for Colbert on social media. The next time Jon Stewart was hosting The Daily Show, he gave about a 10-minute monologue where he said, if you believe as corporations or as networks, you can make yourself so innocuous that you can serve a gruel so flavorless that you will never again be on the boy king's radar. A, why will anyone watch you? And you are wrong. And then he brought out a choir to sing profanities at his parent company, Paramount, which is the same company that owns CBS. So it was to CBS, but it also potentially put his job in jeopardy. We'll see.
I
Paramount
don't think he cares anymore.
Both his network, Comedy Central, and his parent company, Paramount, have not commented on it, but it is making a stir. And a lot of people are canceling Paramount Plus or refusing to watch CBS. David Letterman, who used to host The Late Show, his YouTube channel that posts clips of the show showed a video montage of all the times David Letterman made fun of CBS while he was hosting The Late Show. And the caption was, "You can't spell CBS without BS." And I don't know if that was Letterman himself or if that was the people behind his team. I imagine he had to sign off on it. But it's causing a stir.
Yeah. And it's also interesting to see everyone show up for him because at certain points they try to pit the shows against each other because they can have different viewerships and things like that. But when everyone comes together, it does make a statement about censorship.
It's actually smart, too, to cancel your Paramount Plus subscription, as if they tick you off, hit them where it hurts. Hit them in the wallet, so to speak.
It comes at a very interesting time when President Trump and his base see most of anything that he does as justified and correct.
And anything that's against him as woke and wrong,
and
so to speak.
Un-American. That is the... It's a debate between...
Unpatriotic.
Patriotism and nationalism. And the difference between those is the ability to criticize your nation while still wanting it to exist. And Trump shared a Truth Social post wherein he said he was glad that Colbert was canceled, he heard that Kimmel was next, and he hopes he played a part in it. And that is a unique shift in how the government is talking about media that is not run by the government. CBS is not a government-owned channel. And so for the president to say he hopes he played a part in that show being canceled, and implied because of what Colbert was saying about him, Colbert has been a long critic of Trump, it is a troubling shift towards, if these allegations are to be believed, that CBS canceled the show in response to the lawsuit and trying to appease President Trump. That would be a troubling shift in... I mean, what Stewart said is pre-compliance towards the government, which has not happened on this scale yet.
It goes even further from compliance. If it is that, it steps towards censorship.
Right. Censorship not only... If the government, if Trump had told Paramount to cancel the show, or they did it because he thought that he might, or even if the show is canceled because it will probably get Trump in trouble, Trump will probably not approve, that is troubling. And I think what Jon Stewart said about pre-compliance is a significant part of it. It's one thing if Trump asked for the show to be canceled. It's another, even potentially more troubling issue if Paramount wasn't asked to cancel their show and did anyway, to try to make him, to try to appease him, to try to help the merger, because they're trying to merge with Skydance, and that's a whole different situation. So if he asked them to, or if he didn't, if the reason for this cancellation was anything other than a true financial decision, which is hard to believe, it is a big concern. I think that's why so many people are worried about it. Is it's hard to believe it's financial, and if it's anything else, that's kind of a problem.
Yeah, and I think it's also interesting because other presidents have actually had The Late Show and Late Night Show and all of those different shows have always had a banter with different presidents and different leaders because of fumbles and mistakes and things. But they have actually appeared on the show before, which is what I was looking up. Obama has been on The Late Show. I think Biden even made an appearance at one point.
Trump appeared on the show back in 2016.
Yeah. So it's interesting that he would want to cancel it when he has himself been a part of it.
Well, Trump appeared many years ago, and I believe that was pre his inauguration. That was while he was a candidate.
Yes.
And since his inauguration, and then since his re-election, Colbert has gotten distinctly anti-Trump. And the show did not begin that way, but it has gotten very... I mean, the graphic that The Late Show has for showing a Truth Social post is an underworld with weeds growing out of it, and the White House is upside. It's not meant to be an unbiased show. He has a slant to him. That is very clear. And Trump has long said, he hopes the show is canceled, and he's been biased. But
he says that about a lot of stuff. Doesn't he say that about SNL too?
He says that about most shows currently on in the late night network. He said it about SNL. The difference is if he's gone from making social media comments to using his influence as the president to force it to then do that, or to use his influence to coerce networks into canceling shows and into censoring people. Colbert will be fine. He will find somewhere else to be. But if CBS is trying to remove him from their network, that is a different situation.
Yeah. Yeah. Trump, has a lot of, say about what media gets to be in different rooms, and
which is concerning.
Yes, which is very concerning. And also just entertainment in general is he comments on everything.
He comments on everything.
Well, Trump has actually explicitly said, I hate Taylor Swift. And after Taylor backed Kamala, he called her a childless cat lady. And she is highly successful, if not the most successful woman in the music industry. So it's very interesting to degrade her to a childless cat lady.
I recently played the game Not for Broadcast, which, as I mentioned on the show before, is a game all about you are in the control room of a news network. And the game starts on the first day of a new government. A new party's been elected, and they are instituting sweeping changes. And as the game goes, the government becomes more and more involved in running the show. The Prime Minister, this is a UK-ish country, it's never specified, but the Prime Minister starts appearing on the show. In one ending, she eventually takes over as one of the hosts of the show. It becomes increasingly state-run. The console changes. The governmental party logo is on the machine at one point. The censor button goes from the censor button to just a speech bubble that's crossed out. You start being asked to censor ideas, and the entire point of that game is you're seeing the descent into state-controlled media, and it's your job to determine how much things will be censored and for who. Because there's also this resistance party, and you can censor things for them, or you can censor things for the government. But it is kind of a troubling look into the slide, in this willing slide, and this slow sort of innocuous descent into news that becomes the mouthpiece for government. And this is not just in the game. This happens in actual countries. This is a real thing. States take over.
Russia.
There is media that, you are not allowed to say certain things. This is media. We wouldn't be allowed to say a lot of the things we're saying because it's not just you cannot report mistruths. It's you are not allowed to report things we don't want to be said. And obviously, CBS canceling one show is far from the government dictating what news says. I mean, the Colbert is not even a news show. It's a political commentation. It's not. There is a difference. But what concerns a lot of people, I think, is that this is potentially the first step into that. And if it is allowed to remain unchecked, and if this continues to happen, it could get very serious. In the current landscape of American politics, it becomes increasingly complicated to look outside the U.S. bubble and understand what's going on in other places in the world. Traveling seems especially difficult, and it leaves many to wonder, what does the rest of the world think about America right now? Well, today we have guest Friday Sharp in from England to discuss it. Good morning.
Good morning. Hello. Nice to be here. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So I heard you had an interesting experience traveling here from England.
Yeah, well, a bit of a mission. I live in Newcastle, so I had to go up to Edinburgh, then fly to Boston, then fly to Detroit, and then go across to Grand Rapids, because for some reason Grand Rapids isn't internationally accessible.
It's tough.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
So a bit of a long one, but it's my first time out the continent as well, so it's quite exciting for me.
I think what we really should ask you is, what tips do you have for student travelers who want to go to Europe? How can you do it? How can you do it cheap? What should you be prepared for?
How do you overcome the obstacle that is Grand Rapids Airport?
That's true. Well, I've never been to Grand Rapids Airport.
Grand Rapids Airport's not bad. Once you start getting into the bigger ones, like if you're traveling to France, I know a lot of flights go out from Paris. That airport is ridiculous.
Yeah, that's a good one, actually. Check where the airport is, because a lot of cities have different airports. Paris, for example, has one that's really far out of Paris. It's not even Paris.
Yeah.
You went to that one, right?
I did, yeah.
So that's sad. I think there are a lot of things to keep in mind when you travel in. I mean, I'm not exactly some sort of, travel maestro, but I think
now's not the time to be humble, Freddie.
You're right. I think there's a general fear and distrust of everything that is foreign, and that's very understandable. And fear of the unknown is very real. But especially crossing over the pond is probably daunting for a lot of people. But Europe's a very safe place.
Yeah.
And I think there's definitely, it feels like, maybe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there's something American about stranger danger. It feels like there's something that's particularly present here.
Well, one of the biggest, like, when I first met you and people in France, they were, like, hitchhiking, and I thought that was really scary.
Right, I remember seeing that when I was there.
Because you don't hitchhike here. If you hitchhike here, you're getting murdered. That's the type of...
Do you think that is genuinely the case, or is that just what everyone... Do you think, like, you are just going to die if you do it?
Well, I mean, you think about all the serial killers that are, like, hyped up nowadays, and they make movies and stuff, so then it's like, oh, okay, so if I'm getting picked up by, like, Jeffrey Dahmer, then you're dead.
It is that stranger danger
Well,
culture that you can't trust being in a car with somebody you don't know. So hitchhiking is inherently risking your life because maybe they're fine and maybe they're not. I imagine that the actual statistics are not that high, but hitchhiking is seen as sort of a last resort. The movies in the U.S. show it as, like, I'm stranded in the mountains. I'm hitchhiking because I need to get out of here. That's the only time I'm ever...
There's not a lot of trust, I'd say, in America in general for each other. So probably there's a big difference in that, too.
Yeah, I wonder. I mean, obviously it's person to person. I think I'm quite a trusting, gullible, maybe naive person. So it's probably an individual thing. But it's definitely in Europe. I mean, in France, we hitchhiked all the time. And you kind of have to because you don't have a car and public transport is sometimes lacking. So, I mean, I every time I talk to someone about travel who's maybe not very confident, I really just implore them to do it and try to put some trust in people, because when I was in France, there's so many nice people. Like I would have they have a car sharing service called BlaBlaCar in France, and it's like hitchhiking, but you pay for it online thing, so it's a lot more official.
Sure.
But you'd have these like 4-hour car journeys with people, and they're just trying to save some money, and then by the end of it, they might say, oh, if you need somewhere to stay tonight, you can stay with me. And I did that a few times, and it sounds maybe a bit like scary, but I spent 4 hours with them, and maybe they're a serial killer, but surely I can tell by that point. And I think it's just nice and part of the human experience to receive kindness. And now I sound like a hippie, but I genuinely believe that, and I think it's nice to trust.
Sure.
Yeah, I think beautiful things can come of it. I would say for first-time people traveling, especially when I did it, I was very prepared in terms of like the sort of transportation that I was doing, just because I was really nervous. Like, I know you're the type of traveler where you're going to a country and then you're like figuring it out last minute, if you're going to take a bus, where you're going to go type thing. But I was like, I have a transfer car to the train station. I did. I spent the money for a train because because I talked to a travel agent to get advice, and she was like, she actually helped me for free, because she's like, you're a student going alone, like whatever. Oh, sure. But she was like, I suggest doing this because I'm kind of nervous for you. This could be different because I am a woman.
This is true. So I should have mentioned.
That's fair. Yeah. How dare you, actually? So I think for especially since I was alone my first time, it was really important that I just like felt safe about what I was doing, especially since I have no like prior experience with public transportation as an American.
Right.
We do not really, like, yeah, we have buses and, you know, sometimes we have trains for things, but most, like, my life, I have very rarely used public transportation.
It's insane how little public transit we have.
So it's scary once you get there and you don't speak a language. And obviously most people speak English, but that's not something that you should rely on. Because also, you know, when you go to a country, you want to make sure that you are also trying to learn something about that country as well as like communicating with them. You're not just going to be an American going in.
Radical idea. Learn something.
But
how would you feel doing it now when you go back to Europe?
Definitely more comfortable. Yeah, I wouldn't do a transfer car.
Or you just rely on me to pick you up.
Yeah, probably. No, but I'd probably be a little bit more comfortable just because I got to see how you did it. And a lot of like Google Maps stuff really helps with that too. So I think for first time experience, having that planned out is really helpful just so you can get confident in what you're doing.
That's probably true. I mean, probably the advice part is ease yourself into it. Like, it's not throwing yourself into the deep end. I think if you're the kind of person and you're and maybe not a very vulnerable person, if that even exists, then maybe it's a good point to ease yourself in and not just, you know,
I mean, if you're going with a friend, though, honestly, it makes more sense to like not have things planned because you can figure it out. You kind of rely on each other a little bit more, and you can get into a taxi and feel like you're not going to get like trafficked by yourself, you know, because that was like one of my biggest fears. Because I've seen Taken, you know, Taken really ruined that. We gotta watch Taken. Taken really ruined that whole thing because basically the two
they get into a car and get taken.
There's a reason I won't watch the Final Destination films because I fly too much to watch those.
Yeah, no, exactly. So after watching those, like, I don't have Liam Neeson to come save me.
Oh, I've seen that film. Yeah. I'm your English Liam Neeson. Is Liam Neeson English?
Not in that movie. No, not in the not in the movie. Yeah.
I will find.
Well,
have you ever hitchhiked, Mark?
No. I've taken Ubers. That's the closest thing I've done.
That's
It's like there is a sometimes I think, you know, I'm trusting the app that it knows it's not a serial killer. I mean, anybody could sign up to be a driver here, but there is, you know, that added security of they're registered in the app.
And the 5,000 kind of 5-star reviews.
Right. So you mentioned there was an app that organized hitchhiking. Yeah. So is there a verification process for how you do that, or is it just?
I think it's the same kind of thing as Uber. Like, you have to put your ID in and whatever.
Yeah, because I think that's the scary part of hitchhiking in the American culture is you don't know who you're getting in the car with.
Yeah.
But I think that's why, you know, places like Uber and Lyft have been able to succeed, is that there's that verification of the app is telling you that they're a safe person to be in a car with, and you just kind of trust them. Yeah. It's been wrong a couple of times. I've been in a car with some sketchy people, and I don't trust them. But, you know, I think that is the main difference between.
Have you ever been out of the country?
A couple of times, yeah. I've been went to England and Paris once, and then been to Mexico and Canada.
Where'd you go in England?
It was London. I'm basic. Okay. I was on a tour that went to London and then went to Paris, and it was the most basic U.S. tourist thing. I would love to go back at some point and actually, you know, see the country, but
what would that mean for you to really see it?
I haven't gotten the chance to do it a lot. I am one of the people that I would love to just stay like closer to where people actually live, because I know I stayed in, you know, the most touristy part of the city, and it's my dream at some point to be able to travel and actually just do less of the sites and, you know, see like what's the local bookshop, where are the the cafes, like which sounds so cliche, but it is like I would love to be able to see cities for how they actually are instead of what they've been building for tourists to be.
This is what I loved about Workaway or World Packers, or it's got another name as well. And like, do you know what that is? It's this site that Kenzie and I did. It's how we met, and I did it all around France. It's like you exchange. So it's this website that you message hosts and you exchange work for food and stay. And that genuinely, if you pick the right ones, you stay with families who live in cities and they're just trying to like have someone help with their garden while also getting some cultural exchange for their kids and things. Oh, sure. So that's the kind of thing where instead of dotting around the hostels in the center of the city, you're going around the outskirts of different cities and seeing how people live a little bit more, which feels nice. And the internet's a fantastic place. Yeah. I genuinely really would recommend that you.
It's actually I would say that's like the biggest thing is that those like volunteer programs are something else. And like when I went, because you can go to different ones and like travel around to see different parts of France when you do that. But honestly, I went to one place the entire time and I learned so much and I had so much like so many great experiences. So sure. I really anything that you choose is a great thing. So
that was a bizarre, it was a bizarre place.
Yeah, it was a really interesting place to pick for 2 weeks, but it was a good time. I think we're also curious, Freddie, about some of your opinions on the stuff that's going on federally in our government recently. I know a lot of people don't necessarily always keep track of American politics, but it's so prevalent today for us. We're just kind of interested in hearing some of your thoughts on things that are going on.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I think it's I hope you'll take this well, and I hope I'll say it well, but I think it's a very American assumption to make that foreigners know
Everyone's
what's going on. I
watching.
mean,
Sure.
what do you know about British politics?
Yeah.
As it happens, we all do follow it very closely because it's very interesting.
So
but I just wanted to make that point.
Accurate assumption. It is US assumption.
I think for most people in the UK, it's a sitcom. What's happening? It's just a soap opera with big cartoon figureheads.
Yeah.
And it's a bit of a joke. I mean, I worked in a school recently, and it's the same for British politics, but obviously the way kids talk about politics isn't obviously productive, and they just shout about Trump and make jokes about him and his views, and it would probably not land quite as well here because it's real, and I think it just isn't real for us.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, personally, I'm not a political commentator, obviously, so I don't keep up with it, but it just seems a bit unfathomable, to be honest.
I guess my question is, I feel like recently here we've been struggling with a lot of the younger generations feel like they can't do anything to make a difference. They don't try. We have a really low voter turnout for younger generations. And most of the time, if they do something, it's online where, that really has no difference when they're posting
You
stuff.
share
Yeah. So I guess, do you guys feel like you struggle with that as well? Like your younger generation there is not as invested in politics?
I don't know. It's difficult. I mean, it's difficult to see what. First of all, I think you have to think what does being invested in politics look like. Does it mean having an opinion? Does it mean doing something? Does it mean sharing a poll on your story? I think I'm not sure about all of the young generation. I often think that I could do a lot more. I like to think I have principles, and but I don't think that always transfers to how I actually act and what I actually kind of do. I mean, what do you think? It would be. What do you think it would look like for young generations to be actually involved in doing things?
I think. Well, I mean, it's hard for students, obviously, because we have lots of stuff going on all the time. But I mean, the first step, voting.
Yeah.
We have
Well,
super
that's
low,
bare minimum,
voter turnout. Like that's the bare minimum, and we can't even most of the time people that are voting are a lot older because we just don't care. Because also, we have a sense of does our vote really matter? When we vote for a candidate, we're actually voting for an elector in the Electoral College that has said that pledged to vote for that party.
Right.
But they can always change their mind.
Oh, right, really?
So
Oh,
really,
that's
we
fun.
have no, our vote doesn't go directly to the president.
It was designed to basically balance the amount of power that each state has, because so there's the popular vote, which is just people voting, and then there's the Electoral College that tries to balance out, population versus voting. That way, no one state can decide the election.
Well, also the framers of the Constitution were like, there's a lot of idiots in our country, and we don't think that they can make the right decision about
Dangerous
who are.
way to start talking.
The Electoral College has aged pretty poorly in terms of public sentiment, but it's hard to undo something like that when it's baked into our government.
Yeah.
Well, I think what it is, I know I should have this is going to be great if I get this wrong, but we vote for our local constituents, so I'll vote for my local person who's a Labour or Conservative MP. There are others, there are Green or Monster Raving Loony Party. That's not a joke. That exists. And there are other parties that do exist, but they don't come statistically close that it's kind of worth doing. So if you really don't want the Conservatives get in, you would vote Labour instead of anyway. So we'd vote the Labour constituent for our local one, and then that is a one vote for the overall, and you need over half for the whole country to be Conservative, for example.
I'm also interested. I know that Trump's current foreign policy has been very America first and sort of nationalism based. Obviously, that affects a lot of the rhetoric in the United States. But things like Trump threatening tariffs on other countries, withdrawing the United States from the World Health Organization, does that kind of thing worry you as someone living in a different country, or do you expect that foreign policy will mostly affect people in the United States?
Oh no, I mean 100% worries me. I mean, I think the threat of international war is not something nice to think about, and I think Trump. Well, I mean, you hear some of the things he says, and then I get the little news. I mean, to be honest, the extent to which I keep up with American politics is the news reports I get on my notifications I get on my phone, which is often like Trump bombed some nuclear base or something.
Yeah.
Right. And so that kind of thing's obviously quite worrying to see. I mean, you only see the worst. As far as tariffs go and the effect, I mean, sure, I don't think I notice that much, but yeah, I mean,
I feel like that affects like the bigger corporations, if anything, than local.
I mean,
obviously, like when you're a consumer and you're buying things, that affects you too. But yeah,
I think what would scare me most, to be honest, is just from more of a human. Like, I'm about to get wishy-washy again now, and I'm more quite a just the whole idea of putting yourself first and your country first, and America, but we're the best. Just feels disgusting, to be honest, and that's not no slight on America as a country, but it just feels like I don't know, just an awful way to go about your life. Imagine if everyone acted like that, and that scares me, because if your president's saying that, what does that really mean for the future of humans?
Yeah, for sure.
Allegedly, Trump's presidency will end in a couple years, and America will
unless
move.
he tries to go for a third.
Well, his 2028 claims have been sort of off and on. It's unclear whether he's going to intend to run a third time, or I guess a fourth time.
It's not allowed. Like, that's not a thing.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
Okay.
He is not allowed to be president again.
Unless he changes the constitution.
Which he's been threatening to do sometimes. But then sometimes he says it's a joke. So no one's quite sure. So barring a third Trump presidency, he will leave office. And it's unclear exactly who will take his place as figurehead of the Republican Party, who will run then. As someone that doesn't live in the U.S., and so is less affected by these things, how do you imagine, I guess, what do you hope for in the future of this rhetoric coming from the United States?
I don't know. I mean, it's just going to be basics. I think just less. I think just, I really would want someone, because I think we were talking earlier on as well a lot about whether a politician is voted in because of their policy or because of their character, and where those things intersect, right? And I think some people will vote for someone because he's strong. And in the UK, we had Boris Johnson, who was voted in, and I think a lot of people voted because he was funny and he was a prankster. But I think it's definitely, and some people I think would say the opposite, in that they only look at the policy and things. But I think I really want a leader, and for someone who that their voice is just positive and is, just the bare minimum, not, discriminatory and racist and misogynistic and homophobic and things, and that feels like very, very basic, and I think that's definitely possible, right? Like, that's quite I don't think it's hopeful to suggest that you can have a leader who isn't discriminatory in any way. So I would want someone who's voted in because they have their policies are productive, and then also because their character is just someone who you actually want as a figurehead for the human race,
That's fair.
Sure.
I'm hopeful.
Do you have faith, I guess, in terms of your politics going on now, do you feel like you're, like, comfortable in what's going on, or kind of like this similar idea of, like, people are starting to fall more for the party rather than the, actual person's qualities? And
Well, I don't know. I think it's always a problem with democracy of how much people actually research. I don't. What do you guys? What do you guys think the normal voter would look for in a politician? I don't think it's.
I mean, it really just depends on. Yeah, honestly, it's just party at this point. We're so polarized now that it's like it doesn't even matter if you think that a party's wrong about something. You're just gonna go for it.
Most people are very partisan. I'm going to vote blue or vote red no matter what. I think that the exception to that is sort of people are attracted to, at this point, because it's so polarized, the rhetoric. I think when someone speaks to them, I think that's why Trump has gotten so far, is he speaks to people that felt like they have been neglected by the system. And, Biden was a breath of fresh air from the Trump era. And so I think it's a lot of party, and it's a lot of feeling seen. As corny as that sounds, I think it is just someone that speaks to me and has values that I think are common sense.
Being part of something, right?
Right. And I think because we're so partisan and so divided, each party is sort of the opposite of each other, instead of being, bisects of the same issue. I think it's a lot of just, who do I think will take the country in the direction I want it to go, as opposed to backwards.
That's a nice way of putting it. I like that. Bisections of each other. And do you think that'll happen? Do you think that it will become more nuanced and reflective of the actual situation?
It's hard to undivide something. We've gotten so so divided. So we are, it's not just how do we solve this problem, it's what are facts. Is this happening? And it's hard to undo that, I think.
Especially when the educational system is being impacted.
Yes. I think it will take a long time if anything's possible. I think over time, if we are able to sort of flesh out the stream, if we're able to get this era over with and get new leaders in place that are able to speak to people, there's a New York mayor election that I'm sure it's not British news, the New York mayor, but he sort of made headlines for being able to speak to young people in a way that is new, because he has policies that they actually agree with and they're voting for him instead of against someone else. And
That's good.
Politicians like that do exist, and I think if we can get them back into the stream, and if we can give society time to sort of eventually trickle everything out, I think it's possible. It's just going to take a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm optimistic.
Yeah. I do think Americans should pay more attention to other governments outside of our country. I think it's really important to get different perspectives. So basically, in conclusion, hopefully our politics will be turning for the better in the future. But I don't know. I think if you are able to step outside of the country and see and pay attention to other things that are going on, it might make you feel a little bit better about some of the things that are feel like doom right now in our country.
100%.
Yeah.
I think once you travel and actually see the things that people are blindly scared of, I don't think you could possibly be afraid of it. And I think that's what contributes to a lot of the voting.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Freddie, for coming.
Yeah,
on
thanks
to
so
our
much.
Joining us.
podcast.
It's great.
Good fun.
The Collegiate Live is the official podcast of GRCC student publication The Collegiate. For more information or to submit a question to be read on air, go to thecollegiatelive.com/podcast.